What's going on, guys? Welcome back to my Friday Night SmackDown audio review for December 15th, 2023. I am Graham G.S. Matthews. Hope you guys are doing well and having a great weekend so far. I thought this week's SmackDown was stronger than last week's show, and that's coming from someone who was at last week's show in the front row and had a great time. It was a pretty good show overall, but I think objectively this was a stronger show. Roman Reigns resurfacing for the first time since Crown Jewel. AJ Styles back in the mix with a twist on his return at the end there. Two great matches in the United States Championship #1 Contenders Tournament. A very focused women's division right now, even with Charlotte Flair being out injured. We'll get into that. Out for quite a long time. But we have a pretty clear vision, I think, of where things are going with the WWE Women's Championship. Overall, a great show, a very focused show, as well as a pretty apparent direction for where they're probably going with the Undisputed WWE Universal Championship picture as we head into the Royal Rumble. We'll start from the very beginning here. Randy Orton interrupting the Bloodline Roman Reigns' first appearance on SmackDown since right before Crown Jewel about 6-7 weeks ago. Roman wash, rinse, repeat with these promos. I love the Bloodline stuff at this point, and it has worn thin. I feel like they've exhausted every possible angle and direction they can go in with Roman beyond him losing the championship, which is why he needs to relinquish that championship as soon as possible. Not him coming out Samoa Joe, Ring of Honor World Television title style and just giving up the belt, but him getting beat for that championship. He is not getting beat by anyone that was on this show. It should be Cody Rhodes, and it should be at WrestleMania 40. But that moment could not come any soon. It could not come soon enough. I mean, obviously it should have happened at WrestleMania 39. They opted to prolong the Roman run, keep Cody in chase mode. He needs to overcome more adversity, which I don't know if that was a WWE edict or if that was just fans making bullshit up that Cody had at that point not overcome enough adversity for him to warrant winning that championship on that night. Regardless, it's got to happen at WrestleMania 40. In the meantime, though, it seems like we're kind of left with some compelling storyline directions, not really involving Roman. I mean, it does involve Roman. It doesn't really revolve Roman the same way the Sami Zayn thing did earlier this year and the Kevin Owens stuff and even Jey Uso over the summer. It's honestly more about the challengers and the infighting between them and where that might be going, with AJ Styles, Randy Orton, and LA Knight as well. And we could get any combination of those guys against each other for WrestleMania. I have no idea at WrestleMania what you do with AJ Styles, Randy Orton, and LA Knight. It honestly could be some sort of a combination of the three against each other. Maybe not in a triple threat without anything on the line. I still think we're getting LA Knight against Logan Paul at WrestleMania for the United States Championship. Kevin Owens, we also don't really have a good idea of what he might be doing at WrestleMania. I assume he wins this United States Championship #1 Contenders Tournament. I said that 2 weeks ago. But, I feel like with him as well, he's kind of directionless on the road to WrestleMania. Does he face Randy Orton? Do we get Orton and Styles again? Probably not. It's not really set in stone, so it's interesting. We'll find out as it gets closer, but we had some pretty significant storyline developments on the show involving the championship picture for the first time since Crown Jewel with AJ, Knight, Orton, Roman. We don't really know where Owens fits in right now beyond the United States Championship, probably at the Royal Rumble. A lot of moving pieces right now in the Blue Brand, which is necessary because we need more moving pieces. Orton being in the mix as well has been great. Styles and Roman being back on the Blue Brand is great. It'll make the show more entertaining and worthwhile to watch as we head into the Royal Rumble. And as I've said before, typically around this time of year, as other people have said as well, WWE has a tendency to just phone it in. The holidays are coming around. Royal Rumble's not for another 6-7 weeks. They could very easily just phone it in without a pay-per-view to really build towards in the meantime. They can just have throwaway shows. They have for the last couple of years, even last year around this time. I mean, with the Roman stuff, they were building clearly towards Owens and Roman at the Rumble. But in the month of December, they really weren't doing much of note. On Raw and SmackDown simultaneously right now, they're doing a good job of filling the time and keeping you engaged and putting forth meaningful content, which I appreciate. So anyways, we start off this show. Orton and Bloodline, Orton coming after Roman Reigns, calling out Roman Reigns, wanting a shot at that undisputed WWE Universal Championship at the Royal Rumble. He made that very clear. Now, unless I missed something, as I did not watch the show live this week, I had a family function to attend, I don't think that they announced the match officially for the Rumble. I don't think I didn't see a graphic for Orton versus Roman at the Royal Rumble. And they could obviously make that official at any point in the next month, because the Royal Rumble isn't until the end of January, clearly. But I think that's because they're probably going to incorporate, as they should in my opinion, as we talked about a few weeks ago, Knight and Styles into that match to make it a fatal 4-way. We'll get to the Styles stuff at the end. Orton and Roman straight up one-on-one would be perfectly fine. We know they work well together. They haven't had a one-on-one match in a very long time. That would be a good match to do. But if they want to also incorporate Knight and Styles, who also have their claims to that championship, I would not complain. So I thought this was a good opening segment with the Roman stuff. It was wash, rinse, repeat. I said that earlier as far as he's been saying the same stuff for a while. Oh, acknowledge me, X city, insert city that we're in, blah, blah, blah. And I love the Bloodline stuff, but they need to move it forward here. It's been the same shit forever now with no real tension between the group. And I know the Jimmy Uso thing where he teased, oh, the next tribal chief is going to be Jimmy Uso. Come on up to help me celebrate Solo Sikoa, which was funny. I thought that was well done. But, does anyone possibly at this point give a fuck about Jimmy Uso? He was in the main event again of this episode this week. And I like Jimmy Uso. He's entertaining. He makes me laugh. Jey Uso is funny as well. Jey Uso is a real main event star at this point. It is like night and day between the two. That is obviously the direction we're going in for WrestleMania, Jimmy versus Jey. But at this point, who the fuck could possibly care? They will clearly heat it up between now and Mania. I get that. But in terms of the perception of both people, Jimmy is a fucking lackey. And I know Jey has not won a lot of matches lately either. But he's out there fighting for the World Heavyweight Championship. He feels like a real threat to the Intercontinental Championship if they wanted to go in that direction. There's a lot of things going on right now with Jey that make him a through and through main event star in Monday Night Raw. Jimmy, I guess by proxy, is a main event star because he's been involved in a lot of SmackDown main events in September. But he doesn't feel like a main event star to me. He feels like a lackey for Solo and Roman Reigns. So anyway, our first match in the show, Carmelo Hayes making his in-ring SmackDown debut. Not his main roster debut. He did wrestle on Raw earlier this year against Finn Balor. At that point, he was still the NXT champion, and he lost that match. But he was still kind of doing the Judgment Day thing for a little while there while he was in the midst of that Baron Corbin feud, which was a great match at that show whenever that happened a number of months ago. So Carmelo Hayes wrestling his first match on SmackDown on the show as part of the United States Championship #1 Contenders Tournament, the winner of this tournament, earning an opportunity at Logan Paul's U.S. Championship at a later date. I would have to imagine the Royal Rumble. The first SmackDown of 2024 would be cool. But Logan Paul, so far in WWE in the 2-3 years he's been with the company, has yet to wrestle a single television match. So I assume they're probably going to save it for the Rumble, which is perfectly fine. But I thought this was a great match. It was Carmelo Hayes against Grayson Waller. We heard from Logan Paul beforehand via the pre-tape vignettes, him talking about Carmelo and Owens, Theory, Waller, whatever, which I thought was a nice usage of Logan Paul. He wasn't on the show in person, but he was cutting promos on his potential opponents in this tournament, which was cool. They had a really, really good match, which should come as no surprise. These two have had a handful of matches already together against each other. They had a match for the NXT North American Championship, I think last summer. I don't think it was the summer. I mean, it couldn't have been the summer of 2021 because that was when they rebranded NXT. So it must have been last summer in 2022, which does not feel like it was that long ago, but I guess it was a year and a half ago. At their Heatwave show or Great American Bash show, they had a great match on that show. Hayes won, retained the NXT North American Championship. They ran it back earlier this year for the NXT Championship, Waller's final match on the brand before being called up to SmackDown, fighting Hayes for the NXT Championship, losing that match as well. Hayes is now 3-0 against Grayson Waller, beating him here as well. Hayes looked great, Waller looked great. Waller hit like a fucking, it would make MVP blush. Like a playmaker off the top rope. And the playmaker move in general is not a great looking move. I always used to like it when MVP used to hit it. It doesn't look great when Red Velvet does it, and she hasn't done it in a while. But it just doesn't look overly effective. Waller did a variation of that off the top rope to Carmelo Hayes. And maybe it was between the execution and the way that Hayes sold it, but it looked just fucking phenomenal. It looked awesome, and it wasn't a finish, but it looked cool. I don't know if he's going to make that his finish or just a signature move or it's something he might be doing more of going forward. I'm not exactly sure, but it looked cool. So Hayes went over in the end clean, which was awesome. He got a pretty decent reaction here. He's doing the thing right now on the NXT, on NXT TV with Trick Williams. He's obviously the one who attacked Trick Williams. They're headed for a match at some point. I don't think he's being called up to the main roster full-time quite yet. I don't think this is a Dragon Lee situation where he'll be kind of abruptly phased out of NXT and out of the main roster. That would be a pretty big bummer if they built up this who attacked Trick storyline for months, and then it gets no payoff. I would highly doubt that. I do think Carmelo will stick around in NXT. He'll probably lose to Owens next week. I think Owens is winning the whole thing, like I said. And then Carmelo goes back to NXT, turns on Trick officially, probably costing him the NXT Championship against Ilya at the beginning of January, and then building to a match, either a Vengeance Day or Stand and Deliver, or both, which is what I would do. But yeah, I don't think this is an official in-ring debut or like an official call-up for Hayes on SmackDown, but I thought he went in there and shined, and it's only going to help him long-term when he does get called up, maybe to SmackDown, to kind of help the perception of Hayes in the eyes of the WWE Universe. You might see him as a potential star in the main roster, which he should be, because Hayes is great. I've been following Hayes' career, and I've said this before, since his indie days, like maybe 7-8 years ago at this point. I interviewed him at an indie show that I saw him at back in April of 2016. That was back when he was Christian Casanova in Beyond Wrestling and Northeast Wrestling and stuff like that. And he was super cool then, and he's super cool now. So it's awesome to see him killing it on the WWE main roster. And it's only going to be on, he's only going to go on to bigger and better things from here, in my opinion. In the next quarterfinal match in the U.S. Championship title tournament, Kevin Owens besting Austin Theory in a very, very good match. These two have always worked well together. I don't know what it was, and the crowd didn't even really care. Probably because they did not see Theory as a legit threat to Owens. Even with Owens' broken hand and storyline, they still did not see Theory beating Owens. Owens was over in front of this crowd. This crowd didn't really care about the match, and I couldn't tell you why, other than Theory just not really being over right now. Because these two went in there and had an awesome fucking match. Theory went in there specifically and busted his ass and had one of the best matches I've seen him have in a very long time. They've had a million matches against each other between Raw last year and SmackDown so far in recent months. They've had a handful of matches against each other. But still, I thought they went in there and had a really, really fun match, with Owens winning in the end, as he should have. Worth noting on the Owens front, he won with the cast, which the referee did not see. Now, he did not do it intentionally. He kind of did it subconsciously, just like by instinct, instinctually. And then he looked at his cast, then pinned Theory, and then looked at his cast again and kind of had a weird, sinister smile on his face. Kind of making me think, I mean, he and Carmelo are having a match next week. Carmelo currently is the babyface. Could he turn heel in that tournament, or as part of this tournament? He could. I mean, there's one of two things are going to happen. Either nothing comes of this, obviously, or they won't turn him heel in the tournament because Logan Paul's a heel and Owen should be a babyface foil for Logan Paul. So they can't turn him before he faces Logan Paul. But it's very possible that was designed to plant the seeds for an Owens heel turn coming out of this tournament. He loses the turn, or he wins the tournament, but loses to Logan Paul whenever that match takes place, fails to win the United States Championship, and then they turn him heel because they have Orton in the mix now. Styles, will see where they go with him and what he does. They have LA Knight, who's mega over. Rey Mysterio is going to be back at some point after he rehabs from his injury or knee injury, whatever it was, his knee surgery. So they have Rey among other people, Sheamus. They don't really need Owens as a babyface. He works well as a babyface, obviously, but they could very just as easily turn him heel. They don't have a lot of elite heels on the show. Roman's barely around. They have Solo. Jimmy Uso's a joke. Who's the United States champion? Oh, it's Rey Mysterio, but Santos, they're just rebuilding now, which is good. Theory and Waller are enjoyable. They're not a real threat to anyone on the roster. So they need more heels on this show. And I think Owens could work in that role. I guess they have Karrion Kross, who they also aired a vignette for on the show. Who the fuck at this point could care about Karrion Kross? The guy lost in 5 minutes last week to Bobby Lashley like a scrub. I was shocked he even got a televised entrance. Unless it wasn't televised and I was, I was in the building so I saw the entrance, but I could have sworn it was televised. Maybe it wasn't, because I know they cut his entrance short at MSG a couple of months ago against AJ Styles. He lost to AJ in like 2 minutes. It was like, bro, like what the fuck are we even doing here? So, and they're doing more stuff with him where it's like, it seems interesting. I love the vignettes and the video packages. They look awesome, but they don't book him properly. He always fucking loses and no one cares. But back to Owens, it's possible they turn him heel long term. I guess we'll see in due time. After that, we got the reunion of the Kabuki Warriors in the ring. Asuka and Kairi Sane in tag team action, taking on and beating the duo of Michin and Zelina Vega. After Michin and Vega went after Asuka and Kairi and the rest of Damage Control last week, or 2 weeks ago on SmackDown, I think it was. And maybe it was last week or both. I don't remember. But the Kabuki Warriors winning here pretty decisively. I don't remember what their music sounds like because it's been so long since we've seen Asuka and Kairi together, probably about 3.5 years in WWE. I could have sworn it was the same music, and I don't know if that's a CFO song or a Def Rebel song, but it's a good song, and they came out to it, and it sounded badass. I was so sick of the Kabuki Warriors by the end in 2020, not because of Asuka or Kairi specifically, but because they were doing like, with Asuka, I mean, Asuka's still doing the dumb, rambling in Japanese bullshit, and it's not maybe it is an Asuka problem, but they've had her out there acting crazy for years, and it's just not interesting or entertaining. But maybe they can kind of dial that back with the Kabuki Warriors returning and reuniting, and they're going to be a real threat in this lack of women's tag team division. I imagine that we're probably getting new women's tag team champions on Monday, in Kaden Carter and Katana Chance, and they will very quickly turn around and lose those championships to the Kabuki Warriors. Because there was a promo backstage on the show, a very well-shot promo, by the way, recapping the Damage Control history, with Bayley saying, like, listen, we want all the gold. We're going to do what we set out to do, what I set out to do from the beginning, for my vision for this group, and holding all the championships. Asuka and Kairi will win the tag team titles. Io's the WWE Women's Champion. I'm going to go ahead and win the Royal Rumble and beat Rhea Ripley for the WWE Women's Championship, which you know as fuck is not happening. They can tease it. Bayley should win the Rumble, but Bayley should not choose Rhea Ripley. She should choose Io Sky in Batista 05 fashion. And I feel like that'd be a great story to tell. But this was pretty straightforward stuff from the Kabuki Warriors here, beating Michin and Zelina Vega. And just like that, we got to the main event. Randy Orton taking on and defeating Jimmy Uso in a pretty standard main event here. I enjoyed last week's main event more. Jimmy Uso is not main event Jimmy. He's been main eventing a lot of SmackDowns, but he doesn't really rise to the occasion of, not like connect, because he does connect with the audience. He is entertaining and funny. But like, Jimmy is a fucking lackey. Jay was more than a lackey when he was in the Bloodline. He felt like a real threat to a lot of people. He beat a lot of people. Jimmy Uso can't beat anyone. He can't beat LA Knight. He can't beat Randy Orton. He can't beat jack shit. I mean, I guess he beat Carl Anderson a couple months ago. Oh, what did he fucking do? I guess he may have beaten AJ Styles a couple months ago as well. Maybe he didn't. Maybe AJ beat him. I don't remember. But he's just not a real threat. So the match was fine for what it was. The real focal point, the real talking, the real top takeaway from this segment here came afterward. When post-match, AJ Styles comes out to make the save for Knight and Orton, as we all expected him to. He was rumored to be back on the show, and he was. So he was wearing all black pants, black shirt. I thought it was one of his shirts, maybe not. Takes off the shirt, and he was just fucking shredded. Probably the best shape I have seen him in years. He looked great. And then he proceeds to stand there with Orton, and then attack LA Knight, and then walk off. So he did deliver the phenomenal forearm to Roman Reigns. So honestly, if they're going the tweener route with him, where he's going for Roman, but also has an issue with Knight, that would make AJ the most interesting he has been in at least 2 or 3 years. I mean, I love AJ Styles, one of my favorite wrestlers of all time, but he's just been, I don't want to say he's been phoning it in, maybe he has been, but like, from a character standpoint, there has been nothing interesting about AJ Styles in ages. So whatever they're doing with him now, assuming they're going the direction that I want them to go, that I want them to go in, with AJ and making him a tweener, maybe like a lone wolf-esque character from like 2013 TNA, sign me the fuck up, that sounds awesome. So I'm totally on board with that if that's the direction they're going in. But we'll have to find out. We didn't hear from AJ here. We might hear from him next week. I would love for him to say, listen, they want Roman in that championship. They attacked me a couple of months ago, but I'm also going after LA Knight because he stepped up in my absence to take my spot and my shot at that championship. Which obviously that's the nature of the business, but he's probably bitter about it, which would make him a tweener because he's also going after Roman. So I like that a lot, and I hope that's the direction they're going. Overall, though, I really liked the SmackDown show. I thought it was a very strong show overall. 2 great tournament matches, right people going over in both instances. Good opening segment. We got some progression in the women's division. We are getting a number of matches advertised for next week, including an 8-woman Holiday Havoc 8-woman tag team match, is what they're calling it. Michin, Zelina Vega, Bianca Belair, and Shotzi taking on all of Damage Control, sans Dakota Kai, obviously. She's still injured. But Bayley, Kabuki Warriors, and Io Sky, they're all taking on the baby faces of the SmackDown Women's Division next week. Charlotte Flair, we did find out on the show, is going to be out for 9 months, which sucks. I was there for that injury last week. I don't think it aired on television, but I saw it with my own eyes, sitting in the front row, and it looked fucking bad. They replayed it here, and it did not look good. Probably a torn ACL, I would have to imagine. That sucks. She's obviously missing WrestleMania, but probably SummerSlam as well, which is also pretty bad. So she's going to be out for a while, and that's a bummer. But Charlotte Flair, say what you will about her, but that's a pretty bad injury. Here's wishing her a speedy and full recovery. But yeah, we got that 8-woman tag team match on tap for next week. The next 2 matches in the United States Championship #1 Contenders Tournament. In the semifinals, Carmelo Hayes taking on Kevin Owens, which I'm really looking forward to, and Santos Escobar taking on Bobby Lashley. And we heard from Lashley and Escobar on this show, which was cool. And that's about it. I would assume we'll probably find out what happened with AJ Styles and where he lies and whatever. That's the holiday week show. That's going to fall on December 22nd. So they already taped that episode last night after SmackDown. I don't know how many people are going to be tuning in, but I look forward to that show, though. So 2 thumbs up for the Blue brand this week. I really enjoyed it. A lot like Raw on Monday. WWE right now, man, they're doing some great stuff heading into the holiday season, which is not often the case. It's very rarely the case, actually. But I'm digging what they're doing right now, and I'm looking forward to what they got in store in 2024. Rhyme not intended. Thank you guys for checking out my SmackDown audio review. I appreciate it. Be sure to like the video, drop a comment, share the video, and subscribe to the channel for more daily content. We should be back next week with a holiday edition of SmackDown audio review. Looking at it right now, I will be busy that Saturday, so maybe not. And if I do one, it might be up on Christmas Eve. And even then, it's a holiday, so I'm not sure. There might be a SmackDown review next week. I'm hoping to watch it and review it because it does look like a great show. If not, just know it's probably due to the holiday season, and we'll get back to it maybe the following week. But keep an eye out for that. Have a great one, guys. I'm Graham G.S. Matthews. Enjoy your holiday season, and I'll catch your ass down the road.